Hello, everyone. Welcome to Empower Your Soul. Today, I am really excited to talk to you about some things that have been going on in recent readings with me. And it all kind of stems back from a podcast I did a while ago about the difference between the spirit and the soul. Because this podcast that I previously recorded separated out essentially who you are in this incarnation. So who's the Nicole that you're listening to right now versus who is the soul of Nicole, who is my highest self, who am I beyond all of my individual lifetimes that fold in to my eternal energy in the spirit world. And I know I've explained it all to you before, but I'm seeing this show up specifically in readings recently too. So I wanted to talk about it because it's been a very, very interesting couple of readings that I've had so far, and having to kind of explain this difference to people in the middle of my readings, because a lot of people continue to not understand this. So I'm not sure why this keeps popping up and why it's something I need to talk about on the podcast, because when things pop up, I notice it's a theme, there's something is going on, so I need to talk about it on the podcast. So maybe one or more of you out there need to listen to this and kind of think about what's going on in your readings, or maybe if you're going to readings, what's going on, to help kind of synthesize and help you understand this big picture of spirit in all of our readings. And it's just so interesting to me. So let's get into it. So again, the spirit I'll refer to as like me, Nicole, right now, right? My soul is the culmination of all of my versions of Nicole across many different lifetimes, or, John's, or whoever the heck I was in all these different lifetimes, and my eternal being, right? That's my soul. So what happens in a lot of readings is you will get this weird combination of both of these in a reading. So you will get the spirit typically in mediumship readings when we're bringing forward evidence of who they were in this lifetime. So we'll talk about what age did they pass, right? How did they pass? What was their relationships in this life? What did they do for a career? What were their passions? What were their joys? What were their excitements, right? And we'll talk about them as the incarnation of the person that the recipient knew in this lifetime, which is absolutely natural. It's the whole point of mediumship, is to bring forward evidence of who they were in this lifetime. Makes sense. But then as we shift into the message of a lot of these readings, and when I say the message, that can be a lot of different things, as you've probably heard me say before, because that could be, apologies. It could be terms of endearment. It could be love. It could be advice. It could really be anything that the spirit thinks that we need to talk about in those sessions. So a lot of times those messages will come from the soul level. It will come from their higher self wanting what is best for the recipient of these readings, so that they can move forward with the lessons, with the karma, with their life, and allow them help so that they can move forward on their best and highest path. And that gets really tricky for a lot of people. And I've seen spirits flip-flop this quite a bit as well, which is really interesting to me, because I will have, for example, spirits that come through, and they come through happy and joyous and in a wonderful vibrational state. And that's not necessarily who they were in this incarnation. Likewise, I will have spirits that come forward that give amazing messages, amazing apologies, highlighting why they were so toxic and how they grew up in a toxic environment, and helping provide perspective and context and reasoning behind who they were and why they were the way they were. But it's never something that they would have said here in this lifetime. So no doubt, this thing that's mediumship, that I think a lot of clients come to me, or maybe come to you, and expect this very black and white experience of, I'm going to talk to Uncle Joe, and it's going to be the Uncle Joe that I knew, and he's going to bring forward the evidence of who Uncle Joe was in this lifetime, and he's going to bring forward advice and feedback as Uncle Joe in this lifetime. And the reality is, it's so much more complicated than that. And there's a lot of, I think, education that needs to go on within the spiritual space about this. And maybe this is a me problem, because I am tuned in to, I'm going to say, more of the Akashic soul level readings, and I want people to live their best life. So I'm probably more apt to receive soul level, higher self level evidence and feedback and messages from the spirit world, or maybe not. Maybe I'm not an anomaly, and maybe you all receive those messages as well, but it can get so confusing. So how I like to explain this to my clients, because I feel like I want to go there next. How I explain this to my clients is I essentially say they will come forward as they were in this lifetime. But what happens is after we pass, we tend to go through a life review and live our life from the perspective of everybody around us. So it's almost like we wear the shoes of our spouses, of our neighbors, of our parents, of our children, and we essentially see what we have put others through by experiencing life from their perspective. So that means you experience, it sounds terrifying, doesn't it? It sounds freaking terrifying. We will talk about and experience the things that we did to other people and how maybe it inadvertently impacted them, positive or negative, right? We might talk about how that cascading effect ended up impacting other people. And it's just so interesting because I can't even fathom what this life review looks like, but I know that in my mind, this is kind of the perspective of purgatory, I guess, but you see it from your own life, right? You see it from, oh man, look at what good and or what bad I did to other people on purpose or accidentally. And what did that impact them as, right? That's got to be so big. And I have to tell you all the time, I tell my team, don't put that in my life review. Don't do it. Don't. I know I just did a really bad thing. Please don't put that in my life review. I'm going to try to fix it. So it's really interesting to me because not only do we experience life from everybody else's perspectives, but we are also, after that happens, kind of absolved of any sort of earthly physical being limitations that we have. So the way Spirit again shows it to me is after you go through this life review and you experience everything, it's almost like you go to this proverbial sink and you wash away, I want to say your sins, but that's not really what I mean here. But you wash away anything bad that you did, any negative energies, biases, hatred, anything that I'm going to say is earthly that does not belong in the spirit world. It's like you wash your hands of it. So that essentially, could you imagine what would happen if you went through your life review and you saw everything that you did to other people, the pain, the love you caused, the hurt that you caused, and then you were essentially removed of all your biases. And you essentially get to see things from this very pure, unconditionally loving perspective. And so that's where a lot of these messages come from in the spirit world, is this all-knowing, all-seeing, can see past, present, future of a lot of our loved ones that are living, and you can see it from a lens of unconditional love and support. So no wonder these, in my head, I'm laughing because I'm hearing departed fools. I don't know why I want to say it that way. It really sounded like Mike Tyson in my head right there. But these departed fools, and how they forget how friggin' peanut-sized our brains and experiences are here. So you can't blame them because they are just in this incredible loving space. But us as the translator of these very large transformative messages and loving and energy, right? We have to essentially like dumb it down and deliver it to our clients in a way that they can receive it. And every client can receive it differently. So if you find yourself explaining this to your clients, know that you're not alone. I have to do it quite often. And a lot of times I have to like remind the spirit what we're here to do. And I'm like, you need to come to me as you were in the physical world. You cannot come to me all joyous and happy and dancing if you were a miserable person. I understand that's who you are now, but time out, save that energy for after. And I want to tell, but I need to know who you were so that they recognize you. So I often have to kind of direct the spirits a little bit too, because they don't want to come in as their miserable self. Who would want to do that? If you were this giant curmudgeon that maybe like was like took everybody's money, right? And you were a cheat and a liar, like you wouldn't want to come through as that, right? So it makes sense that these souls want to come through as the best versions of themselves because that's their natural state. Here in this physical world is not our natural state. So if there's ever any instance of talking to somebody and the information doesn't match, just like take a time out and be like, hang on a second, let me talk to the spirit for a second, and be like, are you showing up as the spirit, or are you showing up as the soul? And if they say the soul, tell them, I need you to show up as the spirit, just to start, and then we can transition as you need to. So this is especially true if your client starts saying they would have never said that. They weren't aware of this stuff happening, right? It doesn't sound like them, because this is, again, all us stuck in our puny, tiny, earthly brains and experiences. And there might just need to be a little bit of education on the client's part. So if you are the recipient of these readings, or even if you're giving these readings too, it's just, be here for this. Be here for the incredible, loving messages that Spirit likes to give. And I think this is why mediumship is transforming. I knew this was going to be different because, again, I've recorded this about 5 times, and like my computer ran out of memory. Like it was just the wonkiest stuff happened over and over again. And everything always happens for a reason with me with technology. So I know that this is what I'm supposed to talk about right now because everything has aligned, and now I'm in this really good energetic space right now to give you this message. Because this is what's important and changing about mediumship right now, is that if you think about the mediums of your youth, okay? I'm just going to say it that way. If you think about the really famous mediums or the mediums of your youth, they tend to stay at the spirit level, right? They talk about evidence, sometimes fantastic, sometimes really poor, but like evidence of who they were in this lifetime. The messages seem to be relating to this specific lifetime, and it tends to be the message and the evidence are all from the perspective of the soul as you knew them. And that is absolutely true. I will tell you that is absolutely where I started with mediumship too. Totally normal, right? And I can remember one time this hilarious aunt at an in-person demonstration that I did, one of the first I ever did. It was an entire freaking family. Shout out to Heidi. Hey, girl. It was her entire family in the living room. And I just remember it was somebody's sister that came through, or it was somebody's aunt. I can't remember. Obviously, it was a big family and everyone kind of knew each other, the spirits that were coming through. But I remember pulling in this woman, and she was sassy as hell. And she was like, oh my God, she was cutting. Like her energy would just cut you. She would be like, what are you doing? You're wasting your fucking time. What are you doing? You need to do more. You need to be more. Like and she was just the epitome of tough love. And she was the epitome of tough love the entire reading. Her evidence was tough love. Her message was tough love. And it was her personality through the whole thing. And then more recently, I did another demonstration where it was a departed mother-in-law that came through, and she was freaking brutal the entire time. Again, the epitome of tough love. So she was who she was through the entire reading. And I think this is what a lot of people expect. But also, I think people need to know the unconditional love, and that this is like living in the Matrix, right? And this is like the daydream of the spirit world. This is the fake world. And so I think a lot of people are needing this different perspective that we are not victim of our circumstances here. This is an energetic place where we can change the vibration, change the frequency, change things, and we can make things better. We don't have to sit and be the recipient of everything bad that always happens to us here. Because I think this is the energy that a lot of people have been in for a very long time, is this very dark, damp, negative, low vibration energy. And it feels right now that it's getting darker and darker and darker, right? But the reality is that there's two sides to every coin. So are you going to sit in this negative energy, or are you going to pull yourself out of it and see the positive and see the light and see that this is but a short stay, a mini vacation from the spirit world, and you need to treat it as such. And you need to realize that these mean people are circumstances of this freaking cruel world in this society. And then that's not who they are. And I think the more that people open their eyes to that, and the more that people see that this is just a facade. A lot of these personalities are just a facade for the wounded, loving souls that are underneath it, who just want to receive unconditional love and want to give unconditional love, and have been taught by society not to. And so this is what needs to change about mediumship, because when you, and maybe this is why I am the way I am, because I talk to these unconditionally loving souls all day long. And I'll tell you what, I don't judge anybody for anything anymore, because I know that we all in the moment try to make the best choices that we can. And if we're not making the best choices, then you've probably been dealt a shit hand. And there's a reason for it. And we're all just trying to make it through these lifetimes the best we can. And so I want you to think about that. And a lot of times what we need to do for others is to show up in a way that we want someone to show up for us. And that you are the first step. Wow, this is really going down the rabbit hole. Sorry, everybody. And you are the first step to making the change that you want to see in the world. You can't wait for everybody else to change around you. You have to take the first step, and then people react to that brave first step. So I just love that mediumship is kind of this leading edge of what society needs to do. This leading edge of, I'm going to show up as my unconditional loving self, remind you of your strengths, how strong you are, how brave you are, how amazing you are, how bright you are, so that you can believe it yourself, so that you can show up and be that for other people. And it's a domino effect, isn't it? Because when we show up bravely, other people are inspired and other people follow. And someone is pinching me on my left elbow right now. I don't know who that is. Like, not literally. A spirit is like literally pinching me on my left elbow. And they're telling me to keep going. So let me see what else I'm supposed to. So mediumship is the mechanism in which we heal broken hearts, is what I'm hearing. So it's not just about connecting with departed loved ones. It's being reminded of the beauty that exists in the world. It's reminding you of who you are as a soul. It's like Simba in The Lion King. Remember who you are, right? Remember who you are, and remember that you are here to spread love, to spread joy. And yeah, to go through a couple of challenges and learnings, but don't let them take you under, because you are an eternal being with unlimited potential for joy and growth. And that is essentially the essence of most of my mediumship readings, everybody. So there you go. So there is that big distinction between the spirit and the soul, and how it can kind of show up in these mediumship readings. So again, if you are the recipient of these readings, God, just let spirit talk, because they have so much to share with you. They have so much love and light and kindness, and like they want to give you a peek of what reality actually is in this wonderful world. And I think that's amazing. I think it's amazing. All right. The Amazon guy just showed up outside. My dog is about to bark. By the way, not me. Oh no, he's not barking. Not me. I canceled it, everybody. I canceled it. I'm putting my money where my mouth is and changing my stock portfolios to align with what I think is the societal good. So there it is. I'm sending you all absolute loving energy on this wonderful day, and I am wishing you all the best from my soul to your soul. Take care.